Today is Friday, May the 23rd. It's the end of another awesome week. If you've been watching these episodes, you know I've been onboarding a new fella to help us here locally with our accounting, and he's been learning about kind of all the basic building blocks of what we do as a company so that he can build on top of them and support our team. And we finished week number 2, and it's going really, really well. He's from Mexico. He's doing a great job with our financial records and kind of just doing the financy stuff that we do. And was able to introduce him today to the fella that heads up the labor company that we've decided to invest in and support and back, who also works within the Spanish community. And so the two of them were able to connect today, and it's just neat to see, I believe how God works in all of these things to bring things together. And so that's great. I did see someone say something this morning about Elon Musk that I thought was just a great encapsulation of what I think it means to be a business owner and an entrepreneur with maybe a Christian worldview. And for those of you that might have Trump derangement syndrome or Elon derangement syndrome, you can just exit out of this episode. But everyone knows he was interviewed this past week at a major conference in the Middle East, and just gave some answers about he's probably not going to be donating, in the next upcoming elections, because he sort of has maybe come to the end of where he thought he could help. The Doge exercise is funny because none of the folks that work there are actually in charge of making decisions. They can only make recommendations to politicians, and yet everyone thinks that Elon Musk somehow had this magic wand where he could cut all these costs. And just interesting to see how how very smart people react in a very unsmart way to things that just require a little bit of common sense. But he just basically presented this idea, and this is the worldview part that I share, which is he says, he's backing out of Doge. He's going to focus back on his companies. He did the work he thought he could influence in the government and in policy, and maybe made a dent, maybe didn't make a dent, but maybe is realizing that the political machinery is far bigger than anything, even with his wealth, that he could change. And so he's stepping back and moving back into the companies where, honestly, he thinks that he can probably do a greater job out in the world by simply running great companies, by giving people meaningful work to do, by taking on meaningful problems to solve in the world around him. And down at ground level, and for a guy like me, it just means doing the absolute best you can with what you have. And while I may not want or see a huge future in Canada, that doesn't mean that I give up on Canada. It just means that I work really hard to do the best I can with something in Canada. And if I feel like I have more to offer, to go somewhere where maybe that more can get a better result. And so seeing Elon Musk talk about the idea this week that he's probably done, this is me paraphrasing, but that he's probably done as much as he can do. He has moved the needle as much as someone can move it in his position, and he's going to return back to the private sector. See a couple of episodes ago where I talk about the private and public sector, but he's going to go back to the private sector. He's going to create value for the world, for society, and the government is going to scoop a bunch of that in tax revenue, and they're going to spend it however they want to spend it. And he's just okay with that. It's like there's that meme of Keanu Reeves, who is sitting on a park bench or whatever, and he just looks very content and very happy. And the caption is something like, "Hey, if you think 1 + 1 = 3, it does." And I think that summarizes maybe where Elon Musk is at, where he's done all that he can do in one particular area, and now he's moving back to where he's most valuable, which is in the private sector, solving problems, building stable, healthy companies that make the world a better place. And even if that seems a little bit utopian and unicorns and rainbows, I think there's lots to be said about that. And that's certainly the attitude that I have adopted in trying to level myself or find stability in all of the chaos. And so this week, if we're successful, we would have helped somebody build a great bookkeeping business. We're on a path to help somebody build a really great labor company that's going to provide people with less opportunity, more opportunity, and do it in a way and in a culture, a corporate culture where they're treated fairly and they're not being taken advantage of. And I think that that's meaningful, in addition to running a business that does some work out in the world and makes a difference. I think that to lead that, to build a team that's going to continue doing that while I'm gone, doing other things is really meaningful. And so if you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur listening to this, and you're feeling defeated by the insurmountable amount of pressure and anxiety that goes along with running a business, I think there's some solace to be taken in just saying, like, what am I actually doing this for, though? Like, what is the purpose? And I think if you say to yourself, well, the purpose is to accumulate wealth or to accumulate things, that will continue to lead to the frustration, because I believe that history and the human condition teaches us that there's like no end to that particular objective. And you need something even greater than that. And again, as a father, as a husband, as a business owner, I have this view of serving people, and I don't think that there's a bottom to that at all. And so I'm familiar with what it means to run a business and pursue some financial goals and some very tangible goals. And that's cool. But if the stress and the other stuff is getting to you, you might need to stretch a little more and come up with non-financial means or non-financial goals, like a greater purpose for yourself that allows you to get past those fears and those anxieties that do build up over time. And it's interesting because I do know, I mean, I've not shared kind of my whole story arc for my own entrepreneurial journey, although I have shared it in an upcoming podcast. So that'll be interesting. It was with BAM Canada, and I'll post that once it becomes available. But I have often found that entrepreneurs, they get stuck saying to themselves, well, as much as I hate my business, or as much as I'm frustrated by my business, or as much as I might be going through a really bad season in my business, man, I would love to sell it. And the reason I don't sell it, they'll tell you, is because they don't feel like they're going to get enough money for it, which is crazy, because I believe the market is efficient and you can sell your business for exactly what it's worth, and it's worth what someone else will pay for it. But most entrepreneurs struggle with, but what am I going to do after that? I'm not going to go start another business. I'm not, so you get back to like this purpose thing. In fact, a really good pal of mine, I think, would be great doing other things than what he's doing every day, because I think what he does every day drives him crazy. He came to the realization, I don't know, a couple of months ago, he's like, you know what? I'm actually just not an entrepreneur. I'm a great operator. But the trouble is he actually doesn't like being a great operator either, because the business environment that he's in is really, really tough. The decisions they've made in their business have kind of forced them down a path that he's not particularly enjoying. Hopefully he does one day. But he also doesn't know what he would do with himself if he sold his business, cashed the check, put the money in the bank. You take a summer to be at the lake, do all the fun things, but then, you still got to wake up and you have have more than half of your life to still live. And what do you do if you don't have something greater than that? And so, I think having a hobby is important, having a social circle is important, but I also think you have to have a much bigger purpose. And so if you've been listening to these episodes, it's exactly what I'm pushing up against right now. I think I've done a great job with what I have. There's some room for improvement over the next couple of months that I'm working very hard to put in place. But then I'm trying to figure out where else is the highest and best use for me. And part of it, I think, lies in Spain, in working with this grassroots school. I was approached just this week, funny enough, with a school here in I've been contacted by someone who's involved with the school that said, hey, they're looking to build a new school. They need to find a new property. The board doesn't really have a great sense of direction in terms of how to put this together. And given your real estate background, Dylan, and your finance background, and so on and so forth, would you be willing to sit with the board and kind of help them craft some kind of a plan? And so, of course, it's exactly what I would do. So I, in real time, I'm trying to figure out that whole purpose thing too. But as a business owner, I think we're really called to figure out, answer that question. If someone did buy your business today, what would you do? Most people would say, I don't know. Or they'd say, I would just go and do this again because this is all I know. So I think we all wrestle with that, what's a little deeper than the thing that we do every day. And if somehow it looks like serving other people, I think you're going to find that there is no bottom to that. So then the only question becomes, well, in what form does that take? Some people will become directors of companies. Some people will do things within their community, sports related. I know a guy that retired early, and he ended up creating a position for himself in kind of the hockey world and loves working with young people. And his family is quite athletic. And so he just sort of found after early retirement, that he worked his way into serving a lot, well, dipping his toes into real estate and finding ways to generate alternative income. But like that big purpose question is a hard one to answer. And the only answers I've seen that are of substance, looking at guys like Elon Musk, all the way down to buddies of mine, are the people that connect the dots, are the ones that I think find a way to like serve other people in a way that they could never possibly see the end of. And so for someone like Elon Musk, it might look like trying to get people to Mars, or it might look like for someone like me trying to help a school at a grassroots level in a country that's really, really tough, so that there's students that get like a little crack at hope that they might not otherwise see if this doesn't come together. But if you're struggling with all of that, I think you can only do the best you can do with what you have. And if you are looking for more fulfillment, or you need something to offset the stress and the pressure, you have to find a way to get involved in something where you're looking out at the world and out at serving other people. So I'm going to sign off with that on this Friday afternoon. And in terms of whether do I stay or do I go, for sure, still go, trying to figure all that out. Had someone present me the property we're taking a look at. It probably doesn't work today. There's still like a lot of details to work out. It was in Spain, and so that caused some interesting conversation in our house. But today's a day where I'm still super excited to go. But I'm excited to go because I'm also excited to see how God's going to use us to do things that we're not even aware of right now. And if I'm faithful to doing this vlogging and podcasting thing, then you'll get a chance to follow along in the story as well.